Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and welcome to this week's episode of The Knife Guy. So what are we talking about today? I'm recording this in my time. It's Friday. You guys are watching it Sunday morning. I just went and bought a lottery ticket because the jackpot is 1.2 or 1.3 billion dollars. Oh man, that's a lot of money. It's you're more likely to be struck by lightning multiple times than actually win the lottery. And I did not buy that lottery ticket because I actually expect to win. I mean, that'd be really cool, right? I bought it for two reasons. Number one, I'm trying to imagine the feeling of finding out that somebody in my town won and I didn't buy a lottery ticket. I think I would puke, right? Number two, I think it's worth $3. I've said this before. We've actually talked about this before. I think it's worth $3 just for the fantasy of it, right? We feel extra close to it right now, right? Most people are aware. This is a crazy jackpot, right? So when you feel that close and you buy a lottery ticket, technically, you actually have a chance. If you don't buy a ticket, you have zero chance, right? So I'm paying for this, $3 to me is worth, a day or two of absolute fantasy, right? It's crazy to think about. What would you do with that much money? It's insane. We all have these absolutely just fantastical scenarios in our mind where you win and you stomp into your wherever you work. You tell everybody off that you don't like. You tell your boss, I quit. I don't have to do this anymore, right? That scenario plays out in our head, and then the next scene, you're on a yacht and you have like one of those money guns. And you're just shooting it everywhere, right? That's that's usually the fantasy. Or you go and buy some crazy car. You buy a big house. The reality of it is that it would. So let me scoot back. I do exclusive Patreon content every Friday. I do exclusive giveaways on Patreon, and you can actually join my Patreon if you want. There's a link down below. I have a $1 tier for people who want to get in on that. But every Friday I do exclusive content of some kind, and I bought the ticket and I was driving to the gym and I was thinking, how would winning the lottery change my day-to-day, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. There's a whole bunch of crazy things to consider, right? It's not the fantasy of winning is great, but there's a whole crap load of other things you'd have to consider, right, before you just take in this life-changing amount of money. And so I had this little mini conversation with my patrons. I said, how do you feel like that would affect you? I'm going to think about that. I went to the gym and I was thinking about that while I was exercising. And the truth is, the conclusion I came to is there's a lot of different potential scenarios, but it is impossible to calculate exactly how that would change me and my day-to-day without actually experiencing it. It's impossible. So all I can do is speculate, right? That's all anybody can do unless they actually win. The truth is there's a lot of horror stories. I think there's actually a lot of, I've read about these, as I'm sure you guys have, people who actually win these massive amounts of money, bad things happen to them, right? There's a lot of, not everybody, but a lot of people, really bad things happen, right? And a lot of it is just like rushed decision making. Currently, as you can see here, I have some of my most expensive pocket knives out here. I already buy expensive pocket knives. So what is this going to do? A lot of people would say, if I won the lottery, I would be buying knives like you. Well, I haven't won the lottery and I buy stuff like this. And truthfully, I overspend. I'm a knife guy who has the itch, right? And a lot of times I have to sell things to acquire things, right? Running this channel absolutely helps. I mean, I do generate revenue running this channel. I don't think there's any secret there. And I'm a collector, so I'm going to do this type of stuff. If I won the lottery, it would obviously it would change a lot of things about my life. But what would it change about my, my current hobbies, right? This is knife collecting and just the enthusiast knife world is one of the most interesting things to me right now. And I am I'm very certain, I'm 100% certain that I would not lose interest in pocket knives. It's not like I would go from knives exclusively to watches. I can tell you I would probably be substantially more interested in some of the, upper tiers. Like imagine, if you win, you have the option to take a like a lump sum, or the option to have it paid out over the course of however many, I don't know how many years, right? So I don't know what it is. Maybe it varies by state. This is alarming to me. Depending on what state you live in, you may or may not have the right to remain anonymous. Am I wrong about that? Did I read that somewhere? That's crazy, because I would not want people to know. There are people who would drive down the street at 100 miles an hour, like waving their arms out the window, just like celebrating and wanting to tell everybody that they won the lottery. That sounds like the worst idea imaginable. I'm no expert, but I can tell you the last thing that I would do is run down the street yelling at it. Because guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a bajillion people coming to you looking for handouts. I think that's pretty obvious, right? And initially with your friends and family, depending on the type of person you are, you probably would be, yeah, sure, here's 20 grand, right? Who cares? You win $1.2 billion or $1.3 billion. Just say you take the lump sum, and it's, what do they do? Divide it? Is it like you get 70% of it or 50%? I don't know. I haven't looked that much into it. But then, I think they tax you on it too. So what you actually get, like what gets dumped into your bank account, is nowhere near the 1.2, 1.3, if I'm correct. But at that point, it's still hundreds of millions of dollars, right? I can't think, like right now I'm thinking, this is legitimately what I'm thinking. I could buy a nice grass trailer, like for lawn clippings. I can't think of anything. Like, would I go and buy something ridiculous? Like, would I buy a really fancy car? Probably, right? I probably would. I would do my best. Now I'm 35, and I do try to manage income, try to save, try to invest a little bit, right? Try to, adhere to a budget. I have a specific budget for my knives that does not, I don't dip into anything else. I just channel funds for knives and things that I have that I can sell. If you're wondering where I sell my stuff, I sell my stuff on Patreon. I usually cut prices like in half. I don't ever try to make money, right? I don't ever try to profit from anything I have. When I'm looking for a new acquisition, I just take what I currently have, cut somebody a deal, use the funds to buy the next thing I want, right? But the benefit is I get to make content out of it, and the content generates additional revenue. So it's one of those everybody wins kinds of things, at least from my perspective. So, but anyways, I try to be responsible, but would I buy some crazy vehicle? Probably. Truthfully, I think I'd probably buy a TRX. I'd very much like to own a TRX pickup. And I'd probably, own a few muscle cars. I don't know that I'd buy a new exotic car. I mean, I like how the new Corvettes look. I like, who doesn't like how Lamborghinis and Ferraris look, stuff like that. But I don't think that would be what I would do. I think I would buy older muscle cars, and that I think I would be very interested in that. And I've heard, people who have incredible amounts of money, that's where those like crazy exotic or rare car enthusiasts come from. That's what they do, right? So instead of me, right now, it's pretty, I'll buy a $500 to $1,000 pocket knife every month or two. People who are multimillionaires probably do that with cars, right? So, I don't know. Would I lose interest in knives? No. Would I gain interest in other things? Well, yeah, because I'm definitely I have that collector instinct, right? Would I start buying more expensive knives? I mean, yeah, I probably. I feel like I probably would, right? This is the tier that I'm used to. This is the tier that I'm comfortable with. Like these knives are I think, some of the most expensive knives that I own. But I'm comfortable with this territory because I understand the processes involved with, the production mid-tech and full custom level, amidst this price territory, right? So I think I would start exploring higher territories. But the problem is that the parameters become more narrow. Yes, there are definitely, like you can throw a rock in almost any direction of the knife world internet and find a $5, $10, $15,000 pocket knife. You can, right? It's not that common, but they're there. They're definitely there. And I've looked through a lot of that stuff, and some of it I'm like, if I was like a bajillionaire, like, yeah, sure, there's some cool stuff there. But there's also some stuff I've realized, like, you get up into like the mega, they're still functional knives, they're still durable knives, but they're definitely more art knives. And a lot of that stuff is not as appealing to me. So it's like, I would, but my parameters would become so much more narrow. And so I don't know if I would buy things as often, if it would make it more interesting or less interesting to me. I don't know. The other thing is I don't know, like, I would like to think that I would keep doing YouTube, right? I mean, I wouldn't have to do anything. That's the thing. People say like, oh, well, this is what I hear all the time. I'm like, what would you do if you won the lottery? Would you quit your job? And some people go, oh, I could never quit my job. I'd go crazy if I couldn't. Well, when I hear that, I go, I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. I think the vast majority of people, like 99.99999% of people, would absolutely quit their job, because the vast majority of us are not doing what we love. We are doing what we have to do, right? So if you could quit your job, of course, you'd want to stay busy. I think for a while after I, won, if I won the lottery, I think it would just be like a really long vacation, right? You would just enjoy the initial, the euphoria of absolute financial freedom. I mean, there are so few people on this planet who know what that feels like. I don't know what that feels like, but I think you would just enjoy it, knowing that, you could literally go dump 50 grand just having a really good day. I don't know what you'd do, but it literally wouldn't put a scratch on your finances. It would do nothing, right? So it's like that initially you do that, but I think most people would quit their job and do something. Of course, you wouldn't want to keep doing that forever. A lot of people say, oh, I just keep partying for the rest of my life. I think that would get old eventually. I can't speak from experience, but I think that would get old. You would, of course, want to keep yourself busy. So again, when I say, what would you do if you won the lottery? Would you quit your job? And people tell me no, because I'd want to stay busy. I'd go, bullcrap. You would absolutely quit your job, but you would find something to keep yourself busy. But it would most likely be entertaining hobbies. You would no longer work for anyone, right? When I think of what freedom means to me is not answering to anyone. Imagine that with me for a second. Imagine you answer to no one. If that's not freedom, obviously you still have to act within the law of things. So you still answer to the law and all of that. But you don't have a boss. You don't have to turn in a freaking, I had a job where I had to do like a weekly, what do they call it? You had to write down like what clients you went to and how much you pitched, and you had to, how much of your quota you had met, and whether or not, the effort you were putting in. It was like the boss is supposed to check up on you, but you're supposed to turn in a report so that makes it easier for the boss to check up on you, because they're so busy, right? Behind their desk. Oh, I'm so busy. I used to have a boss, so I was just like, you are not busy with anything. You are not busy right now. This is a way to just make it as convenient as possible. Like, I can write anything I want on this, and that's what we did. We just made it, even if we knew, like, there's no way, if we were behind on quota, there's no way we can even see enough people or pitch enough to get anywhere close to a hypothetical here. We would just write down whatever, right? Because it makes it easier on her, and it makes it easier on the person above her, and the person above her, or him, or whoever, right? Sorry. I don't work there anymore. I'm really glad, but I'm going off on crazy tangents. Imagine you have no one to answer to, no boss to answer to. You no longer, right? Everybody's got coworkers they like and don't like, right? You don't have to, you You don't got to do that. You don't got to find out who you got to rub elbows with in the office, who you want to avoid. You don't have to, if you were in sales, I was in sales. I always hated the thing that I didn't like about the thing that I loved about sales was, and believe me, we're going to get back. We're going to get back to it. What I liked about sales was, telling somebody honestly how great I thought something was, and then they actually buy it, and then they actually see the benefit, right? Selling a car, I loved it when people would come back and be like, I love this car, or I love this truck. It's exactly what you said. I love that. It made me feel so good, right? What I didn't like about it was having to meet a quota, meaning if I was behind, then I had to go out and force things to be sold. Oh yeah, no offense to anybody who owns a Dodge Dart, but many times I had to sell a Dodge Dart and pretend that it was like the greatest car in the world. And spoiler alert, the Dodge Dart is not a very good vehicle. Like, I knew that. I knew that there were, issues. But if somebody walked onto the lot, I don't think it's any secret. If you walk onto a lot and you start looking at a vehicle and you show interest in that, that makes it easier on the salesman. Oh, you like this? Let me tell you all the things that are great about the Dodge Dart. It has 4 wheels and it comes with a free steering wheel, FM radio, and it goes. What do you think? Right? Like that's the thing that I hated about it, right? That's what I love about reviewing knives is I get to sit here and say exactly what I think. Yeah, I make money, definitely. I generate revenue off this, but I get to say what I think, right? Because I'm not selling anything. I'm reviewing things and telling people exactly what I think. So anyways, yeah, I think people would quit their jobs. The idea of never having to answer to anybody is awesome. The idea of exploring all of your hobbies with almost no limits. I mean, you think of, let's say what actually gets dumped into your bank account is $600 million. Imagine that. $600 million, and maybe I'm on the low end. I think it's actually a little bit more than that. 600 million gets dumped into your bank account. Maybe it's less. I don't know. There are ways that people could burn through that, right? Just a series of bad financial choices. And I've actually read plenty of stories where people win $200, $300, $400, $500 million lotteries, and they lose all of it in like 5 years because they just make a crap load of bad choices. Or they don't know how to say no to people. People come to them, I've got an awesome investment opportunity. They don't know how to say no, right? Or they just don't care because they feel like they have limitless funds. Or the taxes get them or something like that, right? So, yeah, there are ways that you can easily burn through that. But I feel like, hobbies like, collecting pocket knives, a lot of times when you're spending that much money on knives, you can usually get that back out of it to the right person if you're collecting the right stuff, right? Usually. But it's one of those things where it's like you don't know until you do it. I would think I would continue to do YouTube. I probably would not do it at the pace that I currently am, but I would still want to do YouTube because I still like acquiring things and sharing those things with other people and sharing my thoughts and talking about that stuff with other people. I enjoy this, right? This is fun. I don't think of what I do on YouTube as work, right? So that's something that I would do. But I would also explore other hobbies. The other thing that I would do, and I honestly think this is what you would have to do if you want to, if you're still here. I know at this point in the video, 80% of the audience has stopped watching, right? But this is honestly what I would do. Let's say that they call it winning numbers, and I look down at my ticket. You got to get the multiplier, by the way. You have to. Buy the $3 ticket or however much it is in your state. You look down and you realize, oh my God, I am effing rich. You just imagine. Like, first off, you're going to have to try not to have a heart attack. You're going to have to try not to freak out. You got to hold it together, man. Right? That's the first thing that's going to happen is you are going to freak out. You are 1,000 times more likely to accidentally break a window or injure yourself in this moment because you are insane. You are stupid and insane because you're too excited and you can't hold it in. So you got to hold it together. Step 1, hold it together. Step 2, I would tell my spouse immediately. Now, that's me. that I don't know about you. I would tell my spouse, and that's it. I would not tell my immediate family. I would not tell my friends. I would not, and I would tell my spouse, you also cannot tell anybody. We got to keep this to ourselves. And then immediately after that, I think I would hire an out-of-state legal team. I would say, hey, I I just won the lottery, and I want to talk with somebody who has no, they live completely out of state, and there's no reason for them to, treat this situation anything other than professional, because I need legal help in understanding what my rights are with this and what every step that I should take, right? And then the next month or so would be pretty hard because, you would find out this is how much time I have to turn it in, and this is exactly what's allowed in the state. In my case, it'd be the state of Kansas, right? Here are your options and things like that. And then I would want to very quietly, I'm not going to you don't run back to the gas station and go, I won, I'll take my, $1.2 billion now, please. It's not going to work like that, right? You'd want to privately and quietly turn this in. I don't know where you do it. I think it's some state office or something like that. Headquarters of the whatever. The lottery. I'm sure there's places near everybody that they can go do that. But yeah, you'd want to do that. And you'd want to make sure. Actually, I should have said this at the beginning of the video. Step one is to sign the back of the ticket. The comments are going to be filled with people going, it took you 21 minutes, or people going like, why would you not suggest that people sign this right off the bat, right? You can tell that I really truly do love enjoying like the fantasy of winning the lottery, even though I know there's basically no chance of winning, like as infinitely close to zero chance of winning. But yeah, quietly turn it in, and there are pros and cons. A lot of people say, well, the smart thing is to take the the overtime payments, because then you get the full amount. Well, is it? Because if you get hit by a meteor in 2 years, well, where does the rest of it go, right? Well, you're not going to enjoy it. Maybe it does go to your family or whoever. I don't know. Depends on who you are. If you consider yourself a financially responsible person who's not likely to, go out and buy a $10 million yacht when you have a pond in your backyard, then, maybe you can take the lump sum, right? But I don't know. I'd want to do that, and then I would want to make sure that I had everything properly invested and properly, and then I would probably move away. And that's the hardest thing, I think, about people who win the lottery, because I'd like to think that all of my friends, I do trust my immediate family. I do. I'd like to think that all of my friends wouldn't come to me and say, hey, I really need 10 grand, or I got a great business opportunity. I need 50 grand, right? Or something like that. I would like to think that that's the case, but you don't know. Now I'm not saying dump everybody, but I would say you are more than likely going to have to uproot and go live somewhere private. You might, I would buy land, and I would, I don't know that I'd want to build. I would probably want to buy a very private place that's away, and I would want to quietly live there for a long time and not explain to anybody who I am and how I came to acquire said property, right? This is all like a perfect scenario, but it might be unavoidable. This is such a weird, rambly episode of the Knife Guy. Should we get the knives out? I think maybe we should. Yeah, the Rockstead still doesn't have a tip. Rockstead Higo 2, XM24, full titanium. All of these knives are very expensive. Liang Ma Model 18. We have the Shirogorov F95, almost said Quantum. The new Spyderco Shaman in S90V and Metanboss Zircotai scales. Of course, we have the Sharp by Design Custom Arch Nemesis. We have the most expensive knife out on the table is the Herman Dragonfly in Damacor and Timascus. I don't know why I closed it. We have the CKF or Custom Knife Factory and Philippe Georget FIF 20 in carbon fiber and Zircotai. A little bit different, right? See how Zircotai can have more of like a magenta and orange hue, or like a blue and purple hue. Interesting. It depends on how it's anodized. We have the Hawk Deadlock OTF. We have the Shirogorov Soft Overkill RJM collab. We have the Shirogorov Quantum. Whole bunch of Shiros out here. We have the Shirogorov F95, or I'm sorry, F3 and S. We have the Vero Isotope Integral in Timascus. And we have the Riat Jack 1.5 in Mokatai. Let's get that right down here. A weird way to lay out the knives. Yeah, so I would keep collecting knives. And you know what? I don't think that I would necessarily, if I just became a bajillionaire overnight, it would take me a while to get back to it, because your life would get turned upside down. Whether you like it or not, you can't just stay where you are and throw a big party and everything's rainbows, right? Probably not going to happen. It would be very scary for a little bit, because anybody who found out that you were worth $500 million, like you had that in the bank, if they felt like you were a vulnerable target, they would definitely, they would definitely target you, right? So it'd be a little scary for a little bit. But yeah, I don't think that I would lose interest in knives. I don't think that I would necessarily even lose interest in the current tier of knives that I am interested in collecting. But I think I would definitely collect more expensive things and eventually spend money on things that no living person actually needs. I also feel like I would be pretty charitable. I would like to give money to some organizations that I, support. I'd like to think that I would do that. I would hope that I would do that. You hope that ultra rich you would still be a good person, but the truth is that money can change the best of us. And I'm already not the best person, I don't always make the best choices. I don't know about you. I don't always make the best choices. I try to be a good person, try to help out when I can. I'd like to think that money wouldn't change me, right? It's a weird thing to think about. It's really fun, and then it's kind of worrisome, it's kind of scary, and then it goes back to fun. Weird stuff, right? If you win, try to be responsible, be safe, and try to continue to be a good person. But, enjoy life, right? Because you only get one life, right? So, anyways, I thought this would be fun. It's always fun to talk about. It's always fun to think about. Tell me what you think. I want to hear what you guys think down in the comments, right? Obviously, I'm not the best. I don't know everything, so my advice is not the best advice. There are people that definitely know more than me. So I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Knife Guy. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you did enjoy this episode, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.